What's up, everybody? We're back here, episode 4. Super excited for this episode with somebody that is a Denison legend. Like I said before, my name is Brian Lilly. I'm here with my boy Jordan Taylor, and today we have a special guest. Your yellow jacket, your favorite yellow jacket's favorite yellow jacket, Mr. T. Wright, sweep right, Mr. Red Flaker Wright, sweep 58, Denison legend number 42. My favorite yellow jacket of all time. Sorry to my dad and to my uncle. We'll talk about this more, but one of the best that ever to wear black and gold. We're here with our guy
No
Corey Robertson.
complaints.
What's up,
Appreciate
dog? How
y'all
you
having
doing?
me. You
Hey
know,
man, it's a pleasure
got two
having you
legends
on.
yourself right there. So I mean,
Absolutely.
hey, got to give credit where it's due.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
man. We appreciate it, dog. I'm gonna tell you, without you, there's no me. In the sense of when I was a ball boy, when I was in 7th and 8th grade, I had that tough task of getting yelled at by Coach Brown and Coach Guess, and my Uncle Tarks had me out there, and there's a lot of touchdowns scored, and I had to go and run, and every touchdown you scored that year, I scored too. And I was running with it, and I think that's how I developed my athleticism. And even the Battle of the Axe, I had to get a police officer to escort me outside the fence because they thought somebody was going to get me. And but I've talked about it countless times that that year, and then we won the Axe, and they handed me the Axe for the first time. It was just like at that point in time, I had to be a Denison Yellow Jacket. Just baseball was my thing before that, but man, I'm just telling you, like you were that person, and I mean, let's call it like it is. You're the 255th recruit in the nation. Like, come on, dog. I mean, that was
Yeah.
real, and it was in there. But let's go off of that. The icebreaker that I have is you were starting at running back, starting at safety, returner. Hardly ever off the field. Let the people know
Oh,
what was really your favorite position.
I will say that, man, I got to say it all. One thing I enjoy was just being on the field.
Yeah.
And you know, having that opportunity to touch the ball, to start on defense. Even did a little kickoff team, punt team at times, and it was the more you're on the field, every opportunity you get a chance to make a play. So I would say just being on the field in general was really just the highlight.
Yeah. So how did you ever deal with cramping or anything like that? Because I know I did, and I got off the field some. You were never off the field,
Man,
dog. So like, how
man
did you do that?
no,
Like you
cramping
just built
was a
different.
real thing. It was a real thing. Like I can even remember senior year when we was playing Kerrville Tivy. I broke a run to the outside, got tackled, and next thing I know, I just hit the ground, and my calf is cramping. I'm trying to tell him, hey, grab my leg, do something. And I'm just next thing you know, I'm just crawling off the field and get some water. Nah, I got to get back out there. You
Yeah.
just you don't want to let your team down. And I had some cramping in college too, so it stayed with me the whole time. No,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Uh,
not fun.
no, no, that's awesome, man. And I can remember just as Brian was, that probably your junior and senior year, man. I was a baseball player too, so up until that point, I was like, yeah, I may dabble in football a little bit, but watching you guys and watching you specifically, man, I think I speak for an entire generation almost of kids that was like, that's what I want to do. That's who I want to be, like Corey Robertson. So, man, it's great having you on here. Shoot, on that note, when people in Denison hear the name Corey Robertson,
uh,
what do you think they picture?
that's a good question. I think that I would hope they would see someone that wanted to work hard, wanted to make a name, not just for myself, but for Denison. I think that was probably one of the things I went to college wanting to do was to make a positive name for Denison. I do have a memory of when I first got to Iowa, they asked me where I was from, and I stood up, the Denison, Texas. everyone kind of, and they all kind of looked at me
That's
like,
right.
okay, Denison. Well, y'all gonna know where this is. And and I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
that. I guess I just want to be a positive influence, just more than anything. Help others, and if that is what I get from it, I'm good with that.
Yeah,
No
man.
doubt, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that you have your brothers and obviously your parents. So talk us a little bit about your childhood, just growing up in Denison, the sports that you played, other than football, and just kind of Corey Robertson as that elementary school player, and just
So
kind of those years of your life.
so in Little League, so when I first started playing football, Denison didn't have tackle football. So we had to go to Sherman and play. And that's where my dad would take us over there. We used to play
Wow.
over in Old Settlers Park. And so it started with football.
Yep.
And I was always kind of bigger than some of the other kids. And I used to have to try to keep my weight down because, they had a weight limit to carry the ball. So I always tried to stay under 100 pounds, at a young
Yeah.
age. It was kind of hard because I like to eat. So but football, track, really track was probably the biggest thing. Summer track. I think I ran that every year through my senior year of high school, from first, second grade all the way through. My dad was the coach as well, so that had a big part to it. But I dabbled in a little bit of everything. I started off with baseball. It was just a little too slow for me. I wanted to hit, but then I'm sitting in the dugout and I'm bored now. and, did a little soccer,
Yeah.
basketball, but my parents were real big into, by the time we got closer to middle school, the running conversation with us was choose two sports, fall and spring. You're going to have to run summer track. So, because my dad's the coach. So, I remember one summer, I don't want to run. And I ran. But yeah, those were the sports.
Yeah.
That was basically a lot of my time. Basketball in the spring up until I got into middle school, and when I got into middle school, it was football in the fall, track in the spring.
Yeah. Well, that
And,
makes sense,
early
though. Yeah.
early in your high school, years, what were you leaning towards, one or the other at that point, or did you know
Uh,
like football was what you wanted to play?
I actually wanted both. I had got approached about potentially doing both sports in college, and but by the time I guess I became a senior,
Uh,
junior, senior, I was like, man, the hurdles go up a little higher. I I don't know if I can run with them.
yeah.
And then I guess I'll say this: a humbling moment was I was running summer track, and I always tell the story to people, and let them know, like, there's a lot of great athletes in the state of Texas, and you run across all kinds. I ran against Jason Richardson. He was the 110 Olympic. I think he
Oh,
got second in the Olympics, and I used to run against him in summer track.
yep.
Wow.
And when I first started running hurdles, and at first I was kind of, I thought I was better than him. And then we came back another summer. He started wearing me out, so I was like, all right, I don't think I'm built for this. you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he ended up being pretty dang good, but shoot, fast forward to your
Oh
senior
no,
year, I think you got second in
I
state, right?
actually I got to state. I got second in region to get to state, and got to the
Okay.
meet, and I don't know what happened. Maybe the nerves got me, but I was laid out the blocks. I hit the first 2 to 3 hurdles. I caught up, hit another hurdle, lost my shoe. There was a picture in the Austin paper with my shoe in the background, up in the air. Yeah, but it was a great experience, though. I mean, I did.
Yeah.
I competed in state and
Yeah.
summer track a lot. Was able to make state there, but that senior
Yep.
year, that was my first time making it, and ah, good times. Good.
I hear you. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, I think I have memories of your shoe coming off
No,
in
it wasn't.
track. That wasn't the first time that occurred. And I think that there's a lot of people that are very successful athletes that did the hurdles, right? RG3,
Oh
Jamal
yeah.
Charles, people like that were big football players as well. I ran track, and our senior year we set the school record 4x2. Jordan was running track and went to regionals as well, and I think it's a big deal. I think track is. I've been a head track coach in my career too. Track is the kind of like the character foil of football, right? Because there's so many similarities, but there's so many differences as an athlete, but also as a coach. In football, we're always worried about what the other team's doing, watching film of what they do, and having a plan for what it is. And in track, it's more of just, hey, we're dealing with us, right? We're working. It's more of an intrinsic rather than an extrinsic. A football game is, you're on headsets, you're talking to everybody the whole time. It's stress is high, anxiety's high. You're rolling with it. In the track meet, we're sitting over here talking, making sure everybody's getting warm. We're out there for a long time, but it's
Right,
very
right.
much like when it's your time, you got to be ready. In
Yeah.
a football game, it's ready the whole time, and so there's a lot to it. My wife and I met, and we became best, really the better friends that we
Oh
did
yeah. Yeah.
through track, and so track's something that's near and dear to my heart as well, and I think it's great for the development. It's something I want my son to be able to do. We develop all the time, and so I think that's awesome. Let me go back to your dad being a coach. So starting off, at what age was your dad your coach? I mean, obviously, it had to be younger because you were the youngest of the boys, and so and then also, how was being the youngest boy? How did that shape you as well to probably be
So I want to say my
the
dad
best
was
version of yourself?
starting to coach us maybe when I was in second grade, maybe third grade. Chris was in high school by that time, so and Chris graduated. He was a senior when I was in fifth grade, so it was probably about second, third grade that he became our track the full time coach, and it was, oh man, that man right there. I mean, you talking about ladders, running, you run 100, 200, 300, 400, up to five, back down to one. And it was,
Oh yeah.
those were days, 15
Yeah.
150s. And he was brutal, but, he was an athlete himself when he was younger. And he went to Grambling State and played there and under Eddie Robinson. So, he was real big
It's cool.
into wanting us to, because he always would say that, track is a gateway sport to anything else that you want to do. If you can run, you can do anything. And if you can run for a period of time, you can just basically, eventually you're going to succeed. Now, I will say, I didn't start having, I wasn't a sprinter. I really wasn't. Like I would say I used to come home crying because I would come in with fifth and sixth place ribbons. I never got the red, white, and blue. That's first, second, third. I come in with the
Yeah.
pink. Because the participation, the green
Yeah.
ones. So I kind of fell into the hurdles because of Chris, and that was kind of why I started doing the hurdles, because I had to find the niche. Where there's a void, there's a business opportunity, as my mom would always say. So that was kind of how I fell into that and just kept working on it, and it just kind of, the technique kind of came to me. And my dad was real big into coming out the blocks, being low over the hurdle. He put a quarter or a nickel on the hurdle, and you want to skim it. You want to barely get it off the hurdle, get your foot down, three steps, all those things. So yeah, that started back then, and I switched to the hurdles about fifth grade. I started trying to work on them back then.
No, that's cool, man. Those are the kind of stories that shape you, right? And that determination and that relentlessness that occurs from whenever you're going over the hurdles, and you're having to be able to still focus on what's going on here and not focus on what's going on here while people are hitting the hurdles and falling over and doing whatever. Like, literally, it's such a
Yeah,
sport, like almost like
absolutely.
the horse with, you have to have blinders on, and to be able to get it through. And so I think that obviously there's no coincidence. Did you ever
Yeah.
hurdle anybody in a football
Man,
game?
no, I never really did. They usually trying to dive at my legs or something like that. So yeah,
He was
I
too
tried to
busy
jump
running
over a dude
around
in
them.
college and got flipped. So
Oh man,
Talk
no,
about
that's
that
good.
humbling, kind of experience, though. You alluded to it earlier, but, as, the early years hurdling, coming home with those fifth, sixth, seventh place ribbons, how did that, because obviously to be a person who's going to step on the field and play any position they're asked to play for their team, that's a to me, a humble guy there in itself. So, how did that
I,
translate or,
it was
help
real
you on the
big
football
because
field?
it was about just keep working, and it's not necessarily about winning the race; it's about finishing the race. And those were some of the things that it just kind of that perseverance that you find in yourself to even when you are down, you don't quit. So you just keep going, you keep running, and
Yeah.
I will say I dropped down a level in the age group because I wanted to run the sprint. I still almost lost,
Yeah.
but no, it truly did. It made I'll say it made that drive a little bit more because you know there you can't understand success without failure. Because if you've
Yep.
only been at
Right.
the top of everything and you failed, you don't know how to take that. And I think that was a big part
Yep.
of
Absolutely.
what helped shape me into that, knowing that I had failed before. I wasn't the fastest, or I wasn't, the sprinter that others were, and it made me work differently and smarter, really.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
No,
No,
I
I
think
think that
that's
that's good.
important to note that, yeah, there's growth and failure for sure.
Yeah.
That's where you really see what you're made of. So that's clearly, was what the type of mindset that you had.
That's I think whenever I was a manager in seventh and eighth grade in track because I wasn't fast
Coach
enough,
Slagle.
and Coach Slagle was the coach, and I would carry his. Shout out to Jeff Slagle, and Coach Slagle, he has the smallest,
Oh yeah,
hardest,
yeah.
most solid hands known to man. Like it, Coach Slagle would let me, I'd carry his bag, I'd carry his track bag around, and that's what I did. But I still practiced with him every day. I ran with him. I practiced with him, and I remember we were going to Greenville, and he put me into a race, and he said, "Lily, you gonna run this week?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I was younger than everybody, hadn't hit puberty yet. I was, chunky, whatever. And we went to Greenville, and I remember I got fifth place, and it was out of five people, and everybody was in front of me, and I remember thinking to myself like, "This is." I was running so slow at the point in time that I'm looking at people in the stands, type thing. I'm like, "Lord, I'm like, this is not how this is supposed to be." And fast forward to my senior year, I was the
Right.
anchor leg on a 4x2 that set the school record, and that was always something. 200 has always been something that's been special to me because I remember that race in Greenville, and I remember the determination it took for me to get to there. And so I get it. I just told my son a story the other day about a time where I thought that I was going to win an award and I didn't. And I went away and cried, and it made me, I worked harder, and I eventually got that award because of something that
Mm,
happened to him at his little Kid Strong class. And, you never know, what those lessons are going to teach you. I wouldn't have thought when I was 11 and I was crying over not making all stars that I'd be telling my son when I was 35, the exact same thing. And so I agree with that. I think that it's much better to experience failure early in your life rather than later whenever you've had everything the entire time and the
right.
success, and then you don't know how to take it. Let's fast forward to that
Yeah.
transition from B McDaniel to to high school, and you get into high school, you're playing. Talk about your freshman year of football. Playing for one of my favorite people, Coach Bob Brown. I love him dearly. Shout out to
Oh.
Coach Brown and Miss Brenda. They watch all of our podcasts. Hoping to get him on here one day.
We will.
But just talk to us about that transition. No, obviously seeing your brother and seeing your brother having played, for Coach, kind of your career as you
You know,
got into that ninth grade
ninth
and
grade
into
was,
it.
I'll say ninth grade was special. Our team, that ninth grade team, it makes you wonder what we could have been all together if we could have, and that's a big part. And that's probably a testament to Jordan. I think you know that, Brian, you know that as well. Them guys sticking together throughout the years and still being on the team as you become juniors and seniors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we ended up 9-1
Yep.
that freshman team. Our only loss was to Sherman, unfortunately, last game of the season. But that freshman year, it was kind of eye opening. Before every game, kind of nervous. You don't know what to expect, especially high school. I think we scrimmaged Ardmore, I believe, and Art, and the varsity was amazing back then, but we ran through the freshman team. I was like, oh, this
Yep.
is easy
Yep.
until we started playing some other teams, and it was like, oh, wow, these kids are really talented. And I think the biggest
Yeah.
highlight was that Denton Ryan game. We went out to Denton Ryan and played them, and but ironically, so we beat them. It was a real close game. We beat them. I think it was like 14-12 or something like that. I think Scooter scored the game-winning two-point conversion for us. But that same class from Denton Ryan ended up in the state championship, technically our junior year against Lamar. So, it was like
Mm,
I know the talent that we had was good enough to move forward through the years.
for
So I
sure.
Yep.
think that freshman year was very it built a lot of confidence, and then being able to go up for the playoff against Ennis. I mean, number one team in the state, Graham Harrell. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean that was
Graham
Yeah,
interesting.
Harrell, boy.
yeah.
I watched Broderick Jones was his name. Split two deep coverage. I was the other safety. I think I want to say it might have been me and Robert Jackson back there, and he threw that ball. I was like, oh my gosh, these boys are really good. Like it. This is a different level than
Yeah.
what I just came from. From ninth grade, and it was that
Yeah,
was
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that was a great experience in itself because everyone, they think you're good enough to be on varsity, and you don't know if you are until you go. And I wasn't sure,
yeah.
but that, especially playing against a good team like Ennis was, and I think they won state that year too. So that experience was
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
very it was beneficial, and it really started with I started off going to a football camp that summer before. My parents they took me down to Grambling State, and it was a week-long camp, and they just kind of took me down there. Hey, this is where you're gonna be. Dropped me off and left me. So so
Good
that
luck.
was that kind of started to build that confidence a little bit, being around your peers, your same age groups, and I'm in a whole nother state with other kids, and you start measuring yourself whether or not you're talented enough, or if you're going to be as good as seventh, eighth
Yeah,
grade, you think you're this, and then you go to a camp and you see all these other kids who are fast and big, and they got other talents that maybe you don't possess, and it those. And I think that's what built that confidence going into that year. And as we had success, I just kind of just kept going from there.
yeah, for sure. No, I think that your class is one of those classes that had a lot of very solid and really good and great players in it.
Yep.
And guys that you had guys at different positions that kind of made you guys very well rounded, kind of like Jordan's class, where you had Josh Vaughn, Scooter Means.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
had Matt Fink, R.I.P. Matt Fink.
Yeah.
You had Matt Jones, R.I.P. Matt Jones.
Yeah.
You had and so many more other people that you can probably give their names, but like just guys that were all at different positions that were all playing all around the field. And then you pair that with the
Yeah.
'04 class with Vinny and Anthony, and then you have eventually with the '06 class with Red and some of his guys, Eric Rios and those guys. Like I think Joe Haley, those
Yeah.
guys were able to bridge together to make those really good classes. Was the Denton Ryan class? What was the
No,
quarterback's name? Was it
that
James Battle?
quarterback,
Was
he
that his
was a
name?
couple years before. That quarterback, his name was Justin Willis. He ended
Okay.
up going to SMU.
Yeah, Justin. Okay.
Oh
Yes.
yeah,
And so
They
they
had
were.
yeah,
Yeah.
they
yeah,
had some dogs out there.
Yeah. Them boys were cold. Those, and then but you so I remember this. I remember whenever you were a freshman, your freshman season would get over, and then you would, if you got
yeah,
invited to go
yeah.
practice with the varsity, right? Like that was like a big deal to get invited to go get practice with the varsity. And so, whenever was that the first time that you started practicing with
No,
the
that was the
varsity,
first time.
or had you done
That
it
was the
some
very
during
first
that
time.
season?
And
Yeah.
excuse me, it was kind of wild because that was a completely different offense. We didn't. They were doing the spread, and I didn't know what the play calls were. I'm like, like you said, T right, sweep right.
Yeah.
They hand it over, but they had me working in the slot,
Yep.
playing
Uh-huh.
slot receiver for the on the playoff team because I think that was
Yeah.
Rob Crawley was the quarterback at the time, and Brian Pritchard was the running
Yep.
back slash
Yep.
fullback, and so I was just kind of playing slot. I didn't know the plays. I was just put me out there, tell me where to go, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
What was that
Yes,
whenever
yes,
Coach White
yep,
was
he
the
sure
offensive
was.
coordinator? Yeah. Yeah, so it was his first stint as the offensive coordinator. He's gonna be
That's
on
what's
here.
up.
I was just talking to him on the phone today. He's gonna be on here at some point.
Oh
We're
yeah.
gonna get him. He'll be listening to this when it comes out. You're gonna be one of the next
he
people.
tried
Just
to
know
make me
that.
he
We'll
tried
get
to
you
move
on
me
here.
to quarterback in that spring.
So no, he tried to do that to you, and then
It,
didn't get the
hey,
chance, and then did it with
hey, it
Stanley,
did.
and look,
It
it
really
worked out,
did.
For
right?
sure. It did. It did.
Stanley Morrison, someone who will never be on here because he doesn't want to
Man,
be, but
that's
maybe we'll
that's
get him at
that
some
sounds
point in
like
time.
Coach White though. He's just trying to get the best player on the field. That's
Hey,
so he can
listen.
coach him.
At the end of the day, this is at my team too. The
It,
best
you know,
athlete needs to have the ball in his
as I
hands
got older,
most,
it
right?
kind of made
And
sense.
and
It just I was like, oh man, I could have had the ball every play.
yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I know I was charting
Well, yeah,
plays, and there was times
that
where you
too.
were having the ball almost every play,
Shoot.
and I
Yeah.
was writing it down. It was T right, sweep right, T left, sweep left, red flicker right, sweep 50 right, blue flicker left, sweep 59. And my
Man.
handwriting's awful, so I'm sure that they didn't ever get the right calls down for film because I'm the wrong person that has to do that. Jordan, you got the next question?
Man, I just want to keep kind of building, into I guess your junior year. When did kind of the pressure of like, okay, this is the next kid, like this is our guy. When did you start to feel kind of
You
that
know,
pressure and just those
and it's kind of like you said
expectations?
with the talent we had around us going into my junior year. There, to me, there wasn't pressure because I had so many other guys around me that made impacts in on the field every game. So all I was just worried about doing my job, and as long as I did my job, and
Yeah.
maybe everything worked out, and had a really good year that year. Rushing wise, we had a good year, but when you got a backup running back going to Tech as a defensive back, you got
Yeah.
Vinny on the O line and D line playing both ways, blocking for you, and they're sending him in motion on
Yeah,
the same side with Matt Jones. That's a lot of beef over there. So they kind of made the job easier for me. So
yeah,
it was just kind of, give me the ball, let me go, just so. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
I didn't really feel that pressure
Yeah.
to make every play, to try to do everything. Obviously, you want that pressure. I wanted the ball in my hands and as much as possible, but I had trust that the other guys around me were going to make plays as well, and when we needed a big play, they were going to be the ones to step up too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
So what about your relationship with Coach Brown? Like, talk to me about some of your memories with Coach Brown, and
Oh,
being able to be like
man,
his
Coach
guy.
Brown. You know, I was pretty surprised that he, gave me those opportunities that he did. I never, like you said, never really came off the field too much, which I love that aspect, and put me in every position possible to be successful. One funny story was it was senior year at practice. We're running those 110 sprints on up and down the field, and we're going to our positions. And I just run by him, and I give him a slap on his on his on his butt or whatever as I'm running by him, like let's go. And he said, "Boy," I just took off running into my position and stuff. Just because by then I'm a senior, so now I can really mess with you now.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh
yeah.
yeah. That's
Am,
funny.
am I right in thinking there was a practice, maybe your senior year, that it was like you didn't get hurt bad, but you kind of got like dinged up at the end of practice,
Oh
and
yeah,
Coach Brown
yeah.
just like called practice off?
It was on a swing pass. I took a swing pass and I got hit in the thigh, so I ended up having like a deep thigh bruise during spring, and yeah, I got practice was over after that. So I was like, oh, all right, well, you know,
Hey, when your best player is, potentially hurt, things will come into question.
I'm telling you, I'm telling you. No, I remember that. I remember that. I think that there's a lot to that relationship with Coach Brown. Somebody that we saw. I was thankful to be a part of the last team that he was the head coach of, and Coach White's first team. But being able to just to have a relationship with him still today, and just some of the different things that the stories he's told me and instilled in me as a coach now, just makes me appreciate him even more. And it's cool to be able to have somebody that coached all of us, to be able to coach my uncle, and then my uncle worked with him. And I think that with him, Coach Brown, he's one of those people that, probably because of the relationship that he had with your brother, that was something that allowed for him to say, okay, if he's anything like him, then he's going to be able to work, and I can trust this guy. I know he's going to work. I know where he comes from. I know how hard his dad is, and I know I can coach him just as hard. So your running back coach would have been Coach Guess, and your
Coach
safeties coach would have
Davis
been
was
Coach
the
Davis, maybe.
linebackers. I believe it was Coach May at the time.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh
Uh
yeah.
huh.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
Coach May
Yep.
was yeah.
Yep.
I like Coach May.
He
Yeah.
was just kind of mild mannered, didn't really get too up in arms. Yeah, yeah.
Never yelled. Mm-mm.
It's funny. I think his son, Coach
He
May,
did.
was coached
Really?
me in the
Yeah,
one
because
ten
Coach May
hurdles
was my
as a
hurdles
seventh
coach.
grader. So, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yep.
that's
Yep.
wild.
Yes. Now,
Oh yeah.
and so
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
Coach
Coach.
Guess was the running back coach. So
Oh
what kind of Coach
man.
Guest story do you have
Yeah.
for
Let
You
me
us?
know
hear
his
this.
favorite line. What he say? I'm daddy. That was one of his favorite lines. Daddy guess. Oh man, yeah, that every time you see him, and
Um,
like I think I saw him about a year or so ago, and always got to mess with him. He's older now, so I can walk up to him trying to grab him. I told you kind of losing that muscle
yeah,
now. I can handle you now. Like I couldn't do it back then, but I can get you now. But yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah. He's great. He's. I'm sure that he was somebody that was, vital to be able to have. He was close with us, and I think it was maybe your senior
oh,
year was his
what?
last
I
year at
think so.
Denison.
Yeah, yeah,
Close to it.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was. I think it was.
yeah.
And but the thing was, he stayed in Denison, so we always had a relationship
Always.
with
Yeah.
him. And so, like, even though he never
Oh yeah,
technically
yeah,
was my coach, he's my coach, right? And the
Oh
same
yeah.
thing with Jordan, and
100%.
so he was always around, and so he's always been
oh
somebody
yeah.
that's been there for us. And so, I think that that's great. But getting moved up, your that going back to that freshman year call up, right? Like, there's something special about that, right? And I think that there's, Jordan, did you practice with us whenever you were a freshman?
Yep, going into that, that
And
off
that,
season, going into that
yeah.
my sophomore year, that was the first time, and it was a wake up call.
Yeah, when I was a freshman, your brother, Jordan, he was pulling on something, and I'm a linebacker, and I'm not reading anything. I'm just running to the ball, and he pulls, and he knocks me down, and my head hits the ground, and he laughs at me, like, oh my gosh, I
Shoot,
don't know about this.
I had a few of those. I had a few.
But there's something there. It was kind of
Right,
like that.
right.
Like nobody was treating you wrong. They were just playing football, right? And so they were just treating you there. And fast forward to your senior year, and so I think your senior year. Which one of
Oh,
who did y'all play in the
we got
playoffs your senior
Alito
year?
before they became Alito, and they were still Alito even then.
Yeah,
It was
that's
kind
what
of
it
crazy.
was. Yeah,
Hey, trust me, I feel your pain on that one, man. They got
Oh
us
my
too.
gosh.
Ryan
Yeah,
Christian,
that
he
dude
was
was something
good.
else. Like
Yeah, definitely.
I remember I think they had a banner on the sideline and said Corey who. And I was like, oh, y'all gonna find out. Well, I found out who Ryan Christian was, is what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. He was cold, man, and
They had a squad.
I think that he was at TCU whenever I was my first game I ever played in college was against TCU. They're number
yep.
11. Andy Dalton was the quarterback, and Ryan Christian was on that team, and so I'd always kept up with him because I was because they put us out, right. And did you think, I don't know if I was talking to Jordan about this, I was talking to somebody about this, but did you think that there was a lot to that, lack of a better term, that hangover effect of having Sherman week 10 and then the playoffs the next week? Because, like, let's talk about it. Sherman is the most important game on our schedule, right? But the goal every year is
Right.
to, the ultimate goal every year is to win the state championship, right? Like, that's just what it is. Like, yes, we want to beat Sherman. But if we were to say, and I'm not going to answer this question, if you were to say, hey, we went 15-1 and we only lost to Sherman, we won the state championship, or we went 10-1 and we beat Sherman but lost in the first round, I know which one I'd pick.
So,
And I know it's 6-1 and half a dozen the other. But did you, because you saw that in your career, like, did you
You
see
know,
that? Did you think that that was really
no,
a thing?
because growing up, we got to see I got to see my brother and their state championship runs. And I think they just kind of set that standard
Mm-hmm.
that as much, you beat Sherman and
Mm-hmm.
then you go make a state run. That's kind of just what the standard was. And so
Yeah.
I never felt that way. You know, I would have taken a loss to Sherman just to make a state run. And 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 I hate to say it like that because I know,
yeah,
For sure.
the rivalry is a lot, but yeah, I mean because what it was, it's one and done. You don't get another opportunity if you're done.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think that's probably what hurt the most was
Yeah.
we didn't get to
Yeah.
keep playing. And I think that's what I wanted more than
Yeah.
anything was to have that opportunity. Because I think that very next year, uh, Ryan and they all went what? Y'all went third round?
yeah.
Like that. I mean,
I think they
Yeah.
lost in the
Yeah.
third
Yeah. We
round.
yeah,
Yeah,
lost.
Wolford,
Yeah, we
and
lost
that
in the
was,
third round. We were.
Wolford Friendship.
and
Yep. And
I
Abilene
was
shot
remember
well.
being in college like, oh my
Yep.
gosh, they made it that far. That's amazing. And it's like, man, I never got an
Yep.
Yeah.
opportunity to at least go that far. I mean, I'd have been happy with the third round, like
Yeah. For sure.
Hey,
yeah,
Alito's a tough
we got
matchup,
hosed on
man.
that one, to get that team in the
Yeah.
first round of the
Yeah.
playoffs yeah, they were different.
It was tough. It was tough, man, because y'all would be the number one seed and you'd come out
Yeah,
and you'd play another really good, just how the
yeah,
playoffs were made up at that
Yeah.
time. You play
It was
another really
different.
good team,
Yep.
and there were less teams making it every year, and so there wasn't a team that was a drop off. Like, you're playing against a good team off the
Yeah.
rip, and for us, we upset a one
yeah.
seed, Mineral Wells. They were undefeated. We upset them, and then we played Springtown and upset them, and then next thing you know, we're in the third round, and we ended up losing that,
Right,
but it
right,
was an eight and
right.
five third round team, and
Yep.
6-4 in the season, but I think that there's something to that is yeah, the goal every year is
Yeah.
to beat Sherman and then go win the state championship. That's always the goal. I think it's probably a little bit easier to and there's that motivation of kids, especially today. Like for your son, he's in 8th grade, and as he goes forward, he's going to have all off season to be thinking about beating Sherman, right? And that's going to be that goal. And on that countdown clock, it's going to go tick all the way down to 0-0-0. Week 1, we're playing Sherman, and we can be able to get that. And I think that that helps with kids nowadays, just to be able to have that like right there on the front of their thought, rather.
Yep.
And then hey, let's beat
Yeah.
them, and
And
now
let's move
let's
on.
turn the
Yep.
page and go the
Yep.
rest of the year. You know what I'm saying? And I think that it actually. I remember whenever they changed that, I was like, oh, it should be the week 10, but that was just what we knew,
Yep.
And I think that as a coach perspective, it's probably a little bit easier to navigate the
Yeah.
waters week 1 rather than week 10. But my senior year, it was the
Right.
consolation prize, right? Like that's the
Yep.
last game of the year, and so we didn't make the playoffs, but we Cody Reed's blocked the
Yeah.
kick as time
Yeah.
expired, and
Yep.
we beat them, and we at least got to end the season with a cool
Yeah.
win. You know what I'm saying? So
Yep.
like there was
Well,
something to that too. But
Yep.
well, I was
anyways,
gonna say, I
Jordan, you got
mean,
it.
No,
but
yeah, go
I
ahead, Gordon.
understand the first game of the season, but man, there's nothing like that atmosphere for that last game. That yeah. I mean,
Especially when
Oh
you're
and
yeah,
both playing
and
for something.
Chris, they used to play for
Yeah.
they were playing for district every time they played and got a chance my senior year.
Yep.
That was for the district championship. And I think that it just
Yep.
meant a little bit more. Like, okay, last game of the season, we're at home. It's Sherman.
Yep.
It's for district. It's bragging rights. Like, and then the crowd is crazy. Like, that.
you just
Oh
sparked the
yeah.
memory. You just sparked the memory for me. Party
Oh yeah,
pit and in for during the Battle of the Axe your
yeah.
senior year, dog, it was crazy. Like I'm talking about that whole stadium was packed. That may be the most people I've ever seen in there. And I remember, we
Yeah.
had like Sherrick had just came over from
Yep.
Sherman, and he had played with them and those kind of things. Let's talk specifically about that game.
Well, uh, man, that was a good memory. I guess the only thing I can say is I didn't score in that game. But it was a good win. They had a good team that year. Ironically enough, they went to the semis. So like, I mean, I can see
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
you almost see the flip side of that conversation we was just having about, yeah, they lost to us, but they made it
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
all the way to the
Yep.
Yep.
semifinals. I mean, so who had the better season
For
when you
Yep.
think
sure.
about it like that? And I still hate to admit that
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
that's a better season because you know, they did and they lost to the
Yeah.
Yeah.
eventual state champions. But
Yep.
Yep.
that game, that last time, that was golly, that was a crazy time. And I so talking about taking your licks. I remember Trey Carter ran a draw and he ran me smooth over in the hole. And I could hear the crowd. I could hear Sherman's
Yeah.
crowd like, ooh. And I had to come off the field too because my shoulder and stuff. But then, come back the very next couple plays later, I pick him off. So, I got kind of got my revenge on that
Yep.
one.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Trey Carter. Trey Carter is
Oh
a good
yeah.
player, man, and Taylor Dunlap. I mean, there were some good players. Like we
Yeah.
give credit where credit's due. Like they had some good players, and that was a really good. I forgot that they made it that far because the next year when I was a sophomore, there was a chance that we were both progressing in the playoffs, and I think they had lost
Mm,
to maybe like Jevin Sneed and Stephenville, and then we lost to Wolford Friendship,
that
and
would have been
there was a
crazy.
chance if we kept winning, we were gonna play them like in the fourth round or something.
Golly.
Yeah.
Dog,
That
I'm
would have been
telling you,
Shut
something.
that
down
would
the
have
whole
been
town.
that would have been because there was a couple years ago. I'm telling you, it was Wichita Falls versus Wichita Falls Rider, and I think they met in the quarterfinals, like before they
Wow.
shut down the schools. And just we were thinking about that, and they were talking about it, like what if that happened? Sherman and Denison both played, and we played them in the playoffs. Like Man, that's. I'm not a hypothetical type person, but oh my gosh, that would have been crazy. So, anyways, Jordan, you got it.
Yeah, no, man. Obviously I want to kind of talk about your recruiting experience a little bit. You know, as your senior year progresses, you know, when did you? Obviously, you ended up committing to Iowa. You know, when did you get that offer opposed to other
So
offers, and how did you navigate that?
I got that offer sometime in the spring of my junior year, I believe. When they were coming, they were they had been coming to the campuses and stuff, and I believe it was by spring of my junior year, I got that offer, and yeah, the recruiting process was pretty interesting. I actually got my first offer my sophomore year, I believe. But I think that was connections with my brother and his running
Okay,
backs coach, and I think it was Washington,
sure,
University of
sure.
Washington. It was that very first offer, and and shortly after that, the offers started kind of rolling in after that junior year, and Iowa just I actually got to go up to a football camp at Iowa for a week, and it was kind of different because it was a full padded camp. So used to be able to go up there and
Oh
Okay,
really
wow.
hit. Now we're banging heads,
yeah,
and
get after it.
that's kind of like
Yeah,
the
Hmm.
OU camp was too. It was a shell camp, so helmet and shoulder pads. So that was kind of a lot of the recruiting process right there was being able to go to camps and see other coaches and talk to them. Um, I can't really remember how many offers I ended up with when it was all said and done. I kind of just
yep,
narrowed it down to
yep,
a few schools, just because it was a lot of attention, and I was trying to I just wanted to play football, and I didn't really care so much about
yep.
this school to that school. I remember getting a letter from Stanford, and one of the teammates, he said, "Oh my gosh, Stanford!" I was like, "Yeah, I don't know," and I think that spring I got a call from Texas, and I'd already known Jamal Charles was going there, and it was like, "Well, hey, you're a Texas back. You should come to Texas." Yeah, but you got him coming in. All right, so I don't know. And Arkansas was the same thing. They wanted to move me to
Yeah.
safety. And Iowa, it just kind of, you know, they had just came off of that Capital One Bowl win against LSU, that Hail Mary, and I was just like, man, yeah, I want to be a part
Yep.
of that because that's a good team. It's the Big Ten. You're playing all the blue bloods, Michigan, Ohio State. I mean, that was a
Yeah.
dream to go into Ohio State and play at that stadium, and Penn State at the whiteouts and stuff, and that would have been
Yeah.
amazing to see. Had it all came about.
It, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's you kind of hit on it. You know, I think you were the 22nd ranked running back coming out that year, and it was shoot. I was looking back at the list. You had Jamal Charles, you had Darren
Yeah,
McFadden, you had Rashard Mendenhall. I mean,
yeah,
talk about
Yeah.
guys who
Jonathan
obviously had
Stewart. I mean, it was
phenomenal
crazy
collegiate
class.
careers, then some
right.
that are had Hall of Fame, NFL careers. Talk about what kind of how it felt to to be in a class like that and to be
I,
ranked up
I
against
would
those
say
guys.
that I felt under recruited. A little slighted, a little bit. So I went out to a USC camp before my senior year. They wanted me to come out there, so I flew out there for it was like a 2 3 day camp, and they were all over me, talking to me. They loved my size. We're talking, and then another running back that was on that list is Marlon Lucky. He ended up going to Nebraska. He was from California. He showed
Okay,
up, and next thing you know, the coaches didn't talk to me the rest of the trip. So it was kind of like, oh no,
so
no, never,
you never forgot
never.
that
I
though.
was
You
like,
never forgot
oh,
Yeah.
I said,
that.
okay. So I guess I didn't do enough. Now I got to come back and do a little
Yeah,
bit more. And oh
yeah,
man, but that running back class, it, it, yeah, looking back at it, well, there was some dogs on there, and yeah, yeah,
it was special. It was special.
it was I would say that it's humbling to even be mentioned in that echelon of running backs that they were, because of those you named, I think what four of them went first round after their junior year. I mean, it was kind of crazy. It was like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
golly, these guys, just all of them. Yeah.
Oh, the real deal. Yeah, I actually played with Jamal in Denver one year. We overlapped when I was out
Right.
there, and he was 10+ years at that point, But watching him in
Oh,
practice, man, he was just out there gliding on the field.
oh man, that
It
dude.
was it was
And
pretty cool to
I
see.
really I first noticed him on the track. He's an elite hurdler.
Oh
Yeah.
So
yeah,
yeah.
yep.
No, that's that. What was aside from the Capitol Bowl win and all that? What was something that
Hmm.
maybe
Yeah.
Kurt Ferentz was the head coach then at the same time too? What was something like the staff that kind of pulled you to there? Was there any particular staff members and what was like the top, I don't know, top three schools that you
So
were looking at that you seriously
as far as the
consider?
staff at Iowa, they were great. I had no complaints about them. They knew the game. They were all experienced. My running backs coach was Carl Jackson. He actually coached Ricky Waters in the NFL. So there was a lot of, there was like, oh wow,
Wow.
this is the kind of pedigree that these coaches have up there. And I'll say the one
Mhm.
coach was when I switched to safety in the spring, and it was Phil Parker. He's now the DC there. Uh, it was his trust and the belief that
Mhm.
he believed that I could be something there. And I remember going into the office. It was like the first week of spring practice, and I was like fourth on the depth chart. So truth be told, it was because of academics that I was fourth on the depth chart. Spent a little too much time playing the video game and hanging out than going to classes. And but I was only practicing half the
Yep.
time
Yeah.
in the spring, and I went to the Coach Ferentz, and I was just like, hey, I want to get on the field. I want to switch to safety, and I want to start practicing with the defense. And it was kind of what he told his reaction was, it kind of surprised me. He was like, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a great thing for you to do. I was like, oh, okay. And yeah, I'll switch. And couple
Yeah.
practices in, next thing I know, I was second team safety, and they were repping me at kick return. I was doing
Yeah.
kick return, safety, and everything else. And because I had just came off of that fall as I won the offensive team leader award for the scout team. So it was there was a lot of
Nice.
positives going into that. But I think Phil Parker, he was the one that his one thing he told me was, you need to be accountable for yourself and the things that you choose to do. And I think that's something that's always stuck with me since then is accountability. After I left there, after I flunked out
For
and
sure.
left, that was something that just stuck with me about, being accountable, learning how to uh, grow and be a man eventually. And you try not to make excuses for the choices that you
Mhm.
make because these are your choices. So you just have to learn from them and become better from those choices. So I really appreciate his words of wisdom at that time, not knowing that it would stick with me throughout life the way it has. But and as far as the three schools, I would say,
Yeah.
funny story. So my mom, she told me, be a man of your word. She would tell me that at a young age. If you say you're gonna do something, do it. So people can trust in what you say and in what you do. Well, I had already committed to Iowa,
Yep.
and so top three schools was Iowa, Colorado, and I believe it's kind of a split between Texas A&M and Arkansas because because A&M.
Oof.
Yeah. Well,
Not
A&M
some
was
good
the one,
options.
but R.C. Slocum had already
Uh,
retired, and that's who I wanted to go play for. The wrecking crew defense, and they stayed having talented guys out there, and that's who I kind of wanted to play for. But the night of before signing day, I called the Colorado coaching staff, and I was going to flip to Colorado. And my mom was like, "No, you made your commitment. Stick with it." Okay, I'll stick with it. And the coach was like, "Well, if you really want to change, we'll send you the papers tomorrow. We'll have them there faxed over first thing in the morning, and I just never reached back out to him. So, because Gary Barnett was the coach at the time, and I'll never forget him being in our house, and he's sitting down with me, and he was like, the moment you step on campus, you'll be my starting running back. And I was like, oh, okay, that's nice, and yeah, it sounds good,
Yeah,
right?
that sounds good.
But no,
Yeah.
there was something about Iowa that was just very appealing. It's the only, they're the only show in the state outside of Iowa State and maybe, Northern Iowa. Those are the big D1 programs there. And that black and gold, it was a chance to stay in black and gold. So, you know, I mean, I was like, okay, I'll stick with it.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that what your mom said and your dad instilling those, things into you, like that's the kind of things that we don't know then, but
Right.
we know now, that
Yeah,
shaped us into who we are. And I think that, for you, your story is your story, right? My dad talks about all the time, like walking
Absolutely.
testimony, like everybody has their own testimony, and God put you into Iowa for a reason, into those different circumstances to make you who you are today, to have, the beautiful daughter and the handsome young man son that you have today, for a reason. And all those, the sum
Yes.
of our decisions make us who we are today. And I know for me personally, I wouldn't change anything, any decision I ever made in my
Yeah.
life, because I'm sitting where I'm supposed to be right now. But I think there's something to, being able just to own that. And, whenever you weren't doing well academically, you had to transfer to a junior college. Talk to us about the junior college time there, and then what steered you in the direction of
So,
Texas A&M Kingsville
obviously,
after that.
you only go to JUCO from D1 if either you couldn't cut it or you didn't have the grades. So, you know, so I didn't have the grades, so I had to go ahead and transfer and try to get my
yeah,
academics up. Had a decent year there. I just kind of chose that school because of it was still in Iowa. I felt like I didn't want to leave feeling like I failed. I wanted to stay and think that maybe I can get better and pursue further. So I was 6 credits away from finishing my associates, but I would have had to come back for that following semester in JUCO, and I didn't want to stay anymore. I kind of figured I kind of wanted to get out of Iowa, and I was actually committed to go to Texas A&M Commerce because my GPA still wasn't really high enough yet, and it was just barely there. And I was going to go there, and the biggest thing was financials. You don't want to. I couldn't stay in Iowa because it just costs too much, especially at out of state tuition and
yeah,
all those other things, books and that nature. Was needing a scholarship, and Kingsville called.
yeah,
Right, I was going to sign the
Yeah.
papers to go to Commerce, and then Kingsville called actually Bo Atterbury. He's the head coach at Southeastern right now, and well, really the
Yeah.
coach was Coach Baxter.
Uh-huh.
I forget what Coach Baxter's first name was, but they called me and it's like, well, before you sign, do you want to come for a visit? I was like, really? Y'all gonna send me on a visit to? I don't even know where Kingsville is, and I had to, and so
yeah,
I went there and I instantly fell in love because, one, the palm trees, there's palm trees down there. I'm not used to seeing that.
yeah,
And two, the Mexican food, that, that was amazing. I was like, they took me to El Tapatio and we ate, and I was like, oh man, I want some more of this. Yeah, sure. I'll come,
yeah,
and they offered me a full scholarship at that time, and you can't beat that. So I transferred over, and so I transferred there, and
For sure.
that was 2007, and we had a terrible season. We were 3-8. Like you, first game of the season, we lost 7-3, and we caused 6 turnovers, and we, like you're not supposed to lose
Wow.
wow,
those games,
wow,
and but so that year
Yeah.
was
wow,
that was a rough year. I think Daniel Polk was the quarterback. Actually, matter of fact, I played against Bernard Scott, Johnny Knox, those guys.
Uh-huh.
Oh man, real
Hmm.
talented. That was at Abilene Christian. Didn't really know that the history that Kingsville had either with some of their players. John Randall, Al Harris. Like Jermaine Mayberry, Gene Upshaw went there. So I mean, it was a lot of history
Yeah.
that I kind of fell in love with too. And that was I I was very happy with my choice, and I know it, and then I know it was Division 2, but I always said good football is played anywhere, and you just want to be on the field, and they gave me an
Amen.
opportunity to be on the field, and unfortunately I flunked out again after that next year, but like I said, I put that perseverance, and I was able to stay with it, and I sat out that '08 year, came back, played again, made all conference. Took the beautiful thing about Division 2 is a lot of people don't really know is that you only get 10 full-time semesters to be eligible. So I ended up taking a part-time semester in the spring of 2010, so I could get my fourth year of eligibility on the football field. So I was a year late, but I still was able to play that last year, and we had a great year. It was a great time. I was able to make first team all conference, honorable mention, all American, and we were the number 2 seed in the playoffs. So there's a lot of good experiences down there.
Wow.
So I just want to talk about that a little bit, kind of that perseverance. I mean, a lot of people, unless you've been through it, it's hard to understand, what it takes to be an elite level athlete, go to school, and take care of all those things. But aside from not making grades or whatever, going from school to school, but continuing just to keep your head down.
Oh man,
Talk about that a little
three
bit.
schools in 3 years is what it was. It was. I mean, that seems normal now. With the way. when, I mean, I,
Seriously.
I mean, but yeah, that was
Crazy.
yeah, it was hard. It's hard to keep your confidence up, especially when, like I said, you wanted people to look up to you, you wanted to be a positive light for people, and you're kind of making choices that aren't putting you in a positive light. And but to be able to just stick it through and realize that the purpose wasn't just to play football, it was to get an education. And I had to really understand, I had to go back and refocus what being in college was about. And that was the biggest thing that I think I took from it was I didn't want to walk away without my degree. And no matter what it was
Yep.
going to take, I was going to finish. And I was fortunately able to finish. A couple years later, my mom always likes to joke I was going to be a career student because I had been I had been in college, just kind of taking classes, retaking classes. When y'all know, as when your GPA drops, it takes that much more to bring it back up, and it takes taking over classes,
Oh yeah.
and even
Mm-hmm.
after you take over the classes, just because it's still credits taken, so you still got to make. Now I got to make A's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now I got to make B's and 4 credit courses. So
Yep.
it was a process to even just get through that. But
Yeah.
I think it let me realize that I can't quit. I just can't quit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Man, no, I commend you for
Absolutely.
that for sure.
I think circling back to you the first team all conference. You finish up in A&M Kingsville, but looking kind of going to where we are today. A lot of people in Denison grew up wanting to be Corey Robertson or grew up looking up to you. Did you realize the impact that you were having at the time? And now looking back on it, having your own son that plays football, what are you the most proud of your
You know,
time as a football player?
I never really thought about whether I was this or that to anyone. My biggest thing was trying to make my parents proud among everything. And funny thing is, as being a parent now, no matter what, I'm still going to be proud of my kids, no matter where, no matter what they're going to do. And, and like like we talk about, I don't really care if he plays sports or not. My biggest thing is that he's a good person, that he's kind, he's helpful, he's respectful,
No.
and that, that you carry your name. And carrying your name is more important than being in front of people. It's more about who you are behind the scenes of as you grow. And as long as you stay, as my mom would say, meek and humble, and and just be a positive, try to be as positive as possible. That's the only thing I could think. And as far as where I'm at today with it, that's all I want to try to do is I always want to try to make a positive in somebody's life. I'm always willing to smile. I think that's a big thing that I think everyone should try to find. I really like Jimmy V, the speech he has about laugh, think, and cry. Like I think those are big things,
Yeah.
and and when you realize that time is short, no matter what that is, you try to find better ways to live each and every day. So that's kind of where I kind of push my kids. I want my kids to see is that it's all right to fail. It's all right to not have the success that you wish you could have. But if you wake up every day looking to be better, you are going to be successful. So that's the biggest thing I can only hope for that maybe others see and remember.
I think that's an incredible message, man. I mean, that's inspiring to hear. And just, again, I know Brian and I feel the same, but an entire generation of kids, man, wanted to be like you. And you truly are, a living legend in Denison history. One more question, what do you think, why do you think it's
Well,
great to be
I'm
from
gonna
Denison?
piggyback off of what I didn't realize it when I was watching the podcast, Dr. Angela, Dr. Angela Butler, uh, and even what JD said, I think it's community. I think it's community, tradition, and family. Because at the end of the day, that community becomes family, and because of how it brings you together and the success that people want you to have being from Denison. I think that's a big thing. And I think that's a great thing to see. When you go into the Metroplex, you got McKinney with 3 different schools. You got Frisco with 5, 6 different schools. Kids going here, there, and everywhere. And kind of like you, I was a High Park Tiger, and you know, and
Yep, yeah.
and
Let's
and
go.
and it's and when you bring all those schools together, you're bringing people together, and I think that's a big thing that I feel like Denison has. That's what it offers. It offers a chance to bring everyone together, and they all work towards a common goal. And I think that community and what people want to be for the community is what matters. And that's why I think that's really just the greatest
I
thing I
love
would
it.
say that Denison has to offer is when they're behind you, they're behind you. And even when you leave, they're still behind you. So I think that's a real positive.
Oh, yep.
For sure. No, I think that that's great, and I think that that's true. To I'll echo the same sentiments. And it's about the relationships. It's about the community. It's about the people. It's about the people that invested into us to make us to where we are today. It's about the people that whenever you're the ball boy on the sideline, the varsity players
Yeah.
treating you, like gold. It's about it's about the kids in the stands that are slapping your hands as you run by. It's about the people that get off work after working all day to come and volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club to be able to have your practice. The people that don't have a lot, but they'll give you the shirt off their back to be able to provide for the kids. There were so many people like your dad, like my uncle, like Jordan's dad. So many people that were invested. Reggie Hines. Like there's so many people, Freddie Hines. There's so many people that are invested in us whenever we were young,
Yeah,
that it solidified our foundation, where our foundation was great to be built off of. Because we had solid foundation, we were able to grow to where we are today. And without that foundation, a structure is destined to crumble. And I think that was the most important thing is your parents, your the yin and the yang of your mom and your dad, of being able to shape you into who you are, and then build off of that with the people along the way. I think of it like an analogy of a bowling alley with bumpers, and the bumpers are kind of like the people that God put in our path
I like that.
to keep us in line and keep us straight. And those people are like the Coach Guesses and Coach Browns and people of that nature that are there whenever we're going straight and we're doing fine. And every now and then something makes us take a little hard left, and there's Phil Parker to keep us in line and talk about accountability and those things. I think that's why it's important, and that's my wish as the city grows, is that we just continue to have that community, to continue to remember who we are, that tradition. Change is good, but at the same time, staying true to your foundational principles, because that's what it was built off of. So, the final thing that we always end with is virtual flowers, and virtual flowers that you would want to give to. It could be somebody from the past. It could be somebody. It could be anybody, whoever you want it to be. So, who would be the person that you, or the people that you would want
Oh
to give your virtual
man,
flowers to?
it always, like you said, it starts at home. My parents, who they were and who they've been, even in my life today. They've always supported me. They've always encouraged me. It's love. It's tough love, but there's a lot of love in that toughness. And I just appreciate them for sticking with me even through all those trials and tribulations of my own doing. That they didn't waver their love or support. And for them, to have them, I just fully blessed to even have them, and for them to be who they were for me. And it's just it's amazing to be able to have that, and and I think, like you said, it just sets that foundation for what I want to be for my own kids. And you want to be a rock, you want to be someone they can call on, they can cry to, and they can believe in. And that's exactly what they were for me.
That's
Yep,
awesome,
as a,
man.
as a dad
That's
of two
a
young boys, yep, that hits home for sure.
No, I agree. I agree. I think that before Jordan wraps it up, man, thanks again for getting out here on us, with us, today. I said it and I meant it. Your favorite Yellow Jacket's favorite Yellow Jacket. Like
Yes,
that's you,
sir.
dog, and
Yep.
and you deserve it. I'll give you your flowers because without you, I'm one of those generations of people that sees number 42, and when I think of you, I think of Yellow Jacket
Yeah.
tattoos on your cheeks, smiling with braces, and just having a good time. And so that's that childlike admiration, and there was a picture that Stanley posted on Facebook the other day. It was me and him slapping hands with some Boy Scouts,
I
and
saw
Brendan
that. Yep.
Looper Brendan Looper was one of those
Oh
people who
yeah.
eventually played for Stanley and played at Texas State. And you never know, you never know who it was. And because of the person that your parents raised you to be, people like you, Richard Patterson, those guys on the bus that would just let me sit with them, and we're doing the right things, and weren't trying to teach me bad language, or doing that. They were teaching me the right stuff, and modeling that for me. That you know, it was very important, man. And this was, you know, an honor to be able to have you on here. You know, it's all love, and I'm appreciative for you to be able to get on here with us. And I'm excited, you know, for your son and your daughter to embark upon their high school careers in Denison, and for you as you continue to with your future endeavors. I hope that we can work together at some point in time, man. And I still owe you that dinner. But we'll get together. we'll get together sooner rather than later, and we'll get together, and hopefully maybe we can get Jordan to come down from Houston, and we'll be able to break bread and
I'll be there.
enjoy
I'll be
time,
there.
man. But I thank you again, dog, for having being on here with us, and shout out to class of 2005.
Yeah.
Shout out to Coach Brown. You know, all those people that invested in you to make you who you are. And Jordan, you got it.
Man, Brian said it, but I enjoyed this one, so much, man. Just appreciate you getting on here with us. It truly was, an honor to talk with you and just kind of hear your backstory. Everybody knows the guy on the field. I was a young kid. That's all I remember. But to be able to get this side of things is awesome, man. So appreciate that. And everybody, I know that everybody listening that when we drop this one's going to, really enjoy this one as well. And hopefully, you guys jump in our comments, let us know what you think. As always, let us know if there's somebody that impacted you in the community of Denison.
Hey,
and just
it's a
appreciate you sticking
pleasure.
around.
Appreciate y'all.
Hey,
Really
man.
do.
Absolutely. Hey, it's great to be a Yellow Jacket.
Yeah.
Great to be. All right.
I appreciate y'all. We're out.
Yep.